Tackling rivalry week here at the Voice of College Football, as we always do, and we can't forget about this one. Florida State getting it together there in Tallahassee. We got David Waters in line from Gators Breakdown to help us out. David, how's it going?
Pretty good, Mark. Trying to enjoy this Thanksgiving week, but this game took a weird turn. Florida going to Nashville last week and laying an egg versus Vanderbilt. So we were looking, a week ago, if you would have talked to me, we would have been talking about, hey, Florida State's coming up. These two teams will just get by this week and set up a big matchup. And look, I don't think Florida was necessarily looking ahead here past Vanderbilt toward out Florida State, but that team did not show up. And it, at least on the Florida side, puts a little bit of a damper on this game a bit. So I don't necessarily want to call it desperation. In some ways it is, but Florida's just got to rebound.
Well, I got to say this, that maybe the only thing losing to Vandy that would be worse than the way you lost to Vandy would have been if you lost the week before, because that was the one that everybody paid attention to across the nation because there were the headlines all over the place. Vandy wins for the first time in 26 SEC games, and Kentucky was kind of the butt of the joke. But then, so everybody took notice of Florida losing to Vandy, but maybe not quite as much because of that.
Also, but in a way, though, it kind of did get noticed because South Carolina goes and beats Tennessee. And then, hey, this is the same South Carolina team that couldn't score a touchdown on offense on Florida the week before. So, Mark, as I've said, the last week has just been so weird. Florida off the big win versus South Carolina just because of, it was a big margin of victory. Florida dominated that game in every form and fashion. And only for a week later, South Carolina to put together possibly their best offensive performance in program history just a week later of not doing anything against Florida. So, yeah, it's and then it's like, whoa, what did Florida do today? Oh, wow, they lost to Vanderbilt? Really? So, Mark, it was a weird week in college football last week, SEC as well. But just think about the last few weeks in the SEC East. You had South Carolina beating Vanderbilt. Then Vanderbilt beating Kentucky, Florida dominating South Carolina. A week later, Vanderbilt beats Florida. South Carolina ends up, destroying Tennessee. So the SEC East has just been crazy the last couple of weeks.
The mid layer of college football, anything can happen. And what you just outlined over the last 2 weeks definitely defines that to a T. I do rankings every week. I counted up the 7 and 4 teams in college football. There are 22 of them.
Wow.
I told people, just try to rank those 22 teams. Don't even go to anybody else. Just try to rank those 22 teams. It's impossible. So we don't know who's going to beat anyone at this point between those 6 and 5, 7 and 4 level teams. It's just a mishmash. Who's going to show up? That was once famously said by somebody, I think Lou Holtz, that a different team shows up every week. So we don't know.
I mean, Right. Every week is a reset. I think we were definitely learning that in college football. Mark, it does kind of follow the theme of this year. Before the season, we had pegged wrongly Alabama, but Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, probably the 4 right there. And a lot of people said behind those 4, 5 through 40, could be, could go either way, week in and week out. And for the most part, you change the top 4. But that is pretty much what we have gotten this year in college football.
All right. So this is Florida State. And for somebody who's completely outside the rivalry, except for to tune it in every year and to think back, 3 and 4 decades and what it means to me, just because I'm so into college football, rivalry week, these all mean something to me. I think it's just cool. It's just unmatched in sports what rivalries are in college football. How important is this game? Because obviously there are no championship implications. The bowl game's secure. What does this really mean?
Yeah, Mark, as I said, McCall's last week's performance for Florida did put a damper on it a little bit. It was setting up to be a bigger matchup than it had been in quite some time. Still that way in some form, but not as big as it was going to be just going back to last Friday. The day before Florida loses to Vanderbilt. But, of course, Billy Napier in his first year, it's not a must-win in year one, but it could build a lot of goodwill after that loss versus Vanderbilt. And for Mike Norvell, it was in some ways some ways, and it'd be an inexcusable loss with the way they're rolling going into this game. Florida has been up and down a roller coaster right now. Florida State, the only thing you really count against them is that mid-stretch in the middle of the season against it was Wake Forest, NC State, Clemson, where a lot of people, they gave them more of a puncher's chance than they originally did going into that stretch before the season, because the way they had started, they beat LSU, and they played okay in those games, but they did go 0-3, but bounced back nice and just dominated since. And then Florida beat Texas A&M, beat South Carolina. It was setting up for a pretty big matchup. But for both for the both coaches right now, not so important for Billy Napier, except for to build some goodwill with the fan base to end the season after last week, and for Mike Norvell to kind of, hey, look, recruiting is going okay for Florida State. Florida State should be recruiting better. That's just plain and simple. When it's all said and done, they're not recruiting as good as Florida. They're not recruiting as good as Miami. We'll see, if any late season surge here because of what they're doing on the schedule to end the season does anything there. But I don't think it'll do too much. So, I think he could build some goodwill too, just to get the victories on the field and seeing if it could translate on the recruiting trail some form or fashion in the next month or so. So, markets lately, ever since the 90s, it's been kind of a chunk here, a chunk there from either team. It's definitely not what it was in the 90s. Urban Meyer comes in, dominates the series. Jimbo Fisher comes in, dominates the series. Dan Mullen comes in, dominates the series right there. So, we'll see what the future holds, but it's nowhere near what it was in the 90s. This was setting up to be a bigger matchup. And we'll see what comes out. It is weird that it's going to be on Friday night. A lot of people will be watching on Friday night. It'll be, kind of prime time, all eyes on the matchup. So it'll have that big game feel, but it's not at that national level.
All right, David, there are so many things that you said right there that I'd like to take off on. And I guess one is, as we stand just looking at this particular matchup, Florida State is everything that you just outlined in regards to how their season's gone. They're at a point where I believe I know what I'm going to get on Friday night when Florida State takes the field.
Yep.
I have a lot less confidence in what Florida's going to be. Not that they can't be really good on any given day, but I don't know. I've got a pretty good feel on Florida State, but not on the Gators.
Yeah, Mark, that is the storyline of the game. Florida State's going to come in. They're going to run the ball well. Jordan Travis is going to probably play a good game, maybe excellent game, because we don't know what we're getting from this Florida defense. But if Florida's defense plays anywhere like they did Texas A&M, South Carolina, Florida State can still win the game. Don't get me wrong, but it'll be a really good game if that's the Florida State we get and the Florida we get. But if you get the USF game, Florida, or the Kentucky game, Florida, or the Vanderbilt game, Florida State's going to blow Florida out, and it won't even be a game because some of the things they do well on offense, especially running the ball to the edge, using some counters, that has hurt Florida's defense a lot at times this year. They did have that, as I said, 6-game stretch where Texas A&M, South Carolina did not score a point on them. But especially on offense for Florida too, Mark, what you could rely on. You could rely on Florida to run the ball. They got manhandled by Vanderbilt last week. Florida couldn't run the ball at all on one of the worst defenses in the country, and that was a complete surprise there. Anthony Richardson goes and throws for 400 yards, but some of that was chunk yardage, and he missed some throws on third downs, missed some easy downfield throws as well, and barely ran the ball. And look, you go back and look at Florida's wins this year, Mark, and go look at how many yards Florida ran for. And 210 yards seemed to be that mark. If Florida hits 210, they win. If they don't hit 210, they lose. That's the kind of magic number there. And I don't think it's that much. If Florida gets anywhere around 200 yards this game, okay, they're going to be in the game. And Mark, I'll go ahead and say they may have to. Florida's batting a lot of injuries at wide receiver right now. We don't know the status of Justin Shorter. I think he'll play, but he's not 100%. Xavier Henderson, very questionable this game. Ricky Pearsall, I'm saying questionable to doubtful this game. Marcus Burke, maybe not, may not play as well. Florida's dealing with a lot of injuries, going to have to rely on some young guys. But I'm also going to say, Mark, it might be a blessing in disguise. Florida may not be able to abandon the run game because they may have to run the ball, and they may have to get Anthony Richardson involved in the run game. But even with that, Mark, you're right. We don't know what Florida we're going to get because you saw the worst of it last week when everything seemed to be going right. It seemed they were turning a corner only to go lay an egg.
Florida State, Doe Campbell on Friday night. We got David Waters from Gators Breakdown right here. Check it out on YouTube, Gators Breakdown, or on your favorite audio platform.